Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Cole McNeely. Joining me is the Center Square's Pennsylvania editor. That's right. It's Kristen Smith. Kristen, how is my favorite editor for the Center Square and the state of Pennsylvania doing?
I'm doing wonderful, ready to talk about greenhouse gas emissions.
Aren't we all? So we say that. The Commonwealth Court, state court, and this year's state of Pennsylvania, it struck down a carbon, quote, tax, but in all reality, I say tax that way, and I did the Prince thing with my fingers because it was ruled an unconstitutional tax. So, Kristen, tell me about what's going on with carbon tax in Pennsylvania.
So it's actually a big win for the people who hate carbon emissions programs because that's what they've been saying. That's what this entire court case is about. Is it an unconstitutional tax to charge power generators for the carbon that they pollute the air with? This is what the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is. It's got 11 states in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast region, and this is what they do. They charge power generators for their greenhouse gas emissions, and they've kind of been salivating to get Pennsylvania in that for a very long time. And so the way that it's normally done in all the other states is that they get a legislative approval to do this. Well, back in 2019, when Governor Tom Wolf was in office, he did not do this. He just kind of said, we're going to join RGGI via executive order. And this started a showdown between the governor's administration and legislative Republicans who said, you can't do this. This is levying a tax on these generators. And that's going to filter down to ratepayers because, of course, if it costs them more money to generate power, and we're talking mostly gas plants and coal plants here, if it costs, and that's the backbone of what our energy supply in Pennsylvania and the same supply that they export to most of the country. If you tax these people, we're all going to pay for it. And it's not, we have to pass it as the legislature. We have to approve that tax. The administration has relied on language that says, under the Federal Clean Air Act, we can regulate power companies in this way. Republicans have spent years trying to stop this from happening. And it found its way to Commonwealth Court, where a ruling came down earlier this week, siding with Republicans and all the other groups that hate this program, saying, actually, it is a tax, so we're going to invalidate it. You can't join.
And so this was obviously, as you mentioned, part of the Wolf administration. Has there been any interesting conversations around the new administration here in Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro's administration surrounding this? Again, I'm going to call it a tax, but unconstitutional tax.
That's an interesting question. It's an interesting question because it's up to Shapiro to appeal this decision. And of course, it's a decision that he didn't initiate. And so he's made some not so complimentary comments about RGGI in the past, both on the campaign trail, and behind the scenes. He's worried about the impact that it's going to have on our energy industry. And so now it's up to him to really do or die with this thing. Is he going to say, okay, let's bring this up to the state Supreme Court where there's a more favorable view of RGGI, or do we just let it go? I'm sure that there will be other environmental groups that step in and try to appeal the situation. But at this point, he's been silent. We have no idea where he's going to go with this. But, things can change. It's Thursday afternoon when we are recording this. So by the time listeners hear this, maybe he's said something one way or the other. But for now, the law of the land is that we cannot be in RGGI unless the General Assembly passes a law.
Well, and we also know, don't mean to call the governor out, but this has been pretty public. Candidate Shapiro had some different positions than Governor Shapiro. So, just inherently the political pressures of actually governing.
Shapiro is a very different governor than what he campaigned on, at least so far when it comes to governing over these really hot button issues. I will say when it comes to energy policy, he's more willing to defy the historical Democratic position on some of these issues. Democrats are very supportive of RGGI and other programs that would reduce emissions and switch us to renewable energy. But Republicans who say that, yes, we agree that we should do this, they just want different methods of doing this, their voice is a lot closer to what Shapiro also believes. And so when he took office, his position on RGGI, he didn't really say one way or the other. And it's my understanding that it's probably him deciding to let the court play out and see what they say and then let that let that be the law of the land, as it were. But we've also seen him flip-flop in the past when it comes to school vouchers, for example. That was something that he supported. It was a program he helped draft, and then at the last minute changed his mind on it. And so it's anyone's guess if Reggie's going to be the next issue that he suddenly has a different opinion on. I will say, though, that he's taken heat already since he's been governor for some of his energy policies from environmental groups. So that at least signals that he is not lock in step with the Democratic Party and their feelings on this.
Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Kristen Smith, this is Cole McNeely. Please subscribe, and thank you so much for listening to Pennsylvania in Focus.